If you're a new coach and you are spending a lot of time trying to create the perfect systems, figuring out the exact way that everything in your business needs to be done, stop. Listen to this episode before you do anything else, because today I'm sharing with you the biggest mistake that new coaches make when starting out. And that's coming up next, right here on Coach Smarter. Welcome to Coach Smarter, the show for online coaches who understand that true success doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing what matters most and aligning your business with your life. I'm your host, Stephen Box, and I want to show you how to grow a profitable, sustainable coaching business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or personal time. So if you're ready to grow your online coaching business without getting burned out, let me show you how to coach smarter, not harder. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Smarter, brought to you by Unshakable Habits. I am your host, Stephen Box, and today we're talking about the biggest mistake that I see new coaches make when starting off, and that is thinking that there is a absolute right way to do things, that there's a best version that exists out there. If you listen to our previous episode, I talked about the systems that I would put in place, and I gave you the order in which I would do them if I were starting over as a coach. And this actually brought a question up from one of my coaching clients after listening to the episode. He said, I'm a little worried about the fact that you said the systems is something that should come a little later, because I'm worried that it's going to make me look unprofessional. And it got me thinking about what are some of the other concerns that new coaches have? What are some of those questions that you might be asking yourself that are actually holding you back? So I wanted to go through and go over some of the ones that I discovered. I spent a little bit of time on social media this week digging through different forums and finding questions that new coaches were asking. So number one, people get really caught up on this idea of a perfect niche. This is a pretty common one that I saw. And what I would tell you is this: it's important to pick a niche, because if you don't pick a niche, it's hard to get specific on the problem that you're going to solve for people. And if you're not specific on the problem that you're going to solve, it's going to be difficult to get clients. So it is important to pick a niche. But understand, you're not stuck with this niche forever. Like, you can change it. So it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to pick something, figure out the problem that you want to help people solve, and get started. You can always change it and adapt later. Second question that I saw come up a lot was, how do I actually design my coaching packages? What should I include? So we're talking things like, how long should the sessions be? How much should I price them for? Should I add other things on? Should I just offer everything inclusively? And again, this is something where I think we overanalyze it. It's easy to think that there's a right answer to these questions. The reality is it's going to vary a lot. For example, if you coach busy professionals or a stay-at-home mom or anyone who has very limited time, and you are trying to sell them on the idea that you're going to give them like a 60 to 90 minute coaching session, they probably don't have time for that, right? But if you tell them like, hey, our coaching sessions are going to be 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, that's a better fit for them. So it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. There is no like perfect coaching call length. It's really about what's going to work for you and your client. So pick something that you think will work and just roll with it. And if it doesn't work, you can always adapt it. Get feedback from your clients and adapt it. Same thing with pricing. People will sit there and obsess over how much should they charge. And I'm going to just let you on a little secret. Most people are not out there calling a bunch of different coaches that do what you do and getting pricing. Okay. You can go out and see what other people charge, just get an idea, and then just pick a price and start selling it. Either people are going to pay it or they're not. And in fact, when you first start, You might not even actually charge anything. You may offer your coaching for free just to get your feet wet, to get the experience of coaching. So if that's the case, you don't even need to worry about price at all. You're just going to go out there and do what you need to do, right? So that's a huge one. A third thing I saw come up a lot was, do I need a website or is social media enough? And I'm going to answer this really very simple. Yes, a website does add a certain layer of professionalism. Yes, it does give people a place where they can go and read your information. And it does make it a lot easier for you to create programs and post links and share and all that good stuff, right? It's absolutely a good idea, in my opinion, to have a website. But you don't need one when you start. All you really need is a social media account, is some way to collect email addresses, and then have an email provider. That's it. That's all you need. In the beginning, that is more than enough. You're welcome. I've taken that off your plate. Another big one is people get caught up on certifications. Usually when I see this one, it is a matter of I don't feel ready to coach, or I've put myself out there and I'm not getting interest, therefore I don't have enough qualifications. And what I'm going to tell you is that is not true. It's not a matter of having enough qualifications. Most clients don't really care about your qualifications. Most clients care about, do you know how to solve their problem? So if you're finding that you're not ready to coach or you don't feel ready to coach, offer free coaching to somebody, figure out what problem you want to help them solve, make sure it's a problem you actually know how to solve. You'll feel more comfortable then. And if you are really specific in describing that problem and someone is confident you can help them with it, they won't care what certifications you have. Again, this is something you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time worrying about. It's something that over time, sure, you want to figure out what other things you want to do and where you want to grow your skill set and all that. But if you're sitting there right now and you don't have clients, it's not the right thing to worry about, right? We need to focus on the other stuff. The same lines of that, a close cousin of that idea is people always go, which platform should I use? Should I use Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or TikTok, or do I need to be everywhere? And the answer to this is very simple. Wherever your people hang out and whichever one you're comfortable with. I can tell you right now, there are people who get clients from every single one of these platforms. Every single one of them. Just don't try to do all of them at once. It's a terrible idea. You'll find it very difficult to keep up with and you'll burn out. So pick one, two maximum, where you know your clients are, and go hang out there. Another one is around the structure of the business, right? So like things like discovery calls, or like a free session if you're doing that, or a coaching call, like how should I go about structuring all of that? And what I would say is there are frameworks out there for coaching. I'm a strong believer the one system you should have in place before you start coaching anybody, before you even get the first client, is you should have some coaching systems in place, some kind of a framework. And there's a lot of them that are available out there that you can go get for free. If you have a certification already, they probably gave you a framework to use. Just use that. Don't spend a lot of time trying to create scripts and all this other stuff for it. Just take the process that you already have and start coaching somebody, and you will figure out from that process what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you need to change, what you need to add, what you need to take away, and all that good stuff. And this is going to be whether we're talking about a free discovery call or a coaching call or anything, that really does apply. In terms of those calls, another thing I see people get caught up on is, what's the best tool to schedule or send people an invoice so I can get paid? Or how do I manage my clients and all this? Here's the thing. If you have less than 5-10 clients, you don't need any of that, right? You can just manually schedule people. You can put them on your calendar. You can keep notes on them in a Google sheet, right? Nothing complicated. You don't need the best tools because at this point, you don't even know what the best tool would be because you don't even know what you need the tool to do. And if you go into a Facebook group and you just ask people, hey, what's the best tool for this? What you're going to get is what they have found the best tool is for them based on their experiences, which has absolutely nothing to do with you. A few more I'm going to run through here a little quickly. So number one, people will say, or number 8, I should say, people get really caught up on like naming their business or naming their program because they've been told you need to have something really unique and it needs to stand out and all this. I have seen so many of the most successful people in this niche that they will go and have the most basic names for stuff, right? And it's true. The more simple names tend to work the best. You don't need anything overly complicated, right? So don't get caught up on this idea that you need the perfect name. You can actually even change your name. When I first started, my business name was Get Slim Fitness. Horrible name, by the way. So you can all laugh at that. And then I decided to name it Stephen Box Fitness and Nutrition. Really fancy stuff, right? And I rolled with that for a long time, for like years. And then I finally decided on Unshakable Habits. And this podcast at one point was the Unshakable Habits podcast. And then I changed it to Coach Smarter. I rebranded multiple times. You're not stuck with these things. You can always change them. Just something for you to think about. Also, some of you actually I duplicated on here and I just realized things like how do I price my services and how do I create social media content and all that kind of stuff. One I want to touch on that I see a lot is like, how do I stand out? This is actually a really interesting one that doesn't take as much time as people think it does. The way you stand out is by not sounding like everybody else, is by recognizing that you can talk about the things that everybody else talks about, but you have a unique perspective. You have a different background. You have a different way of thinking. You have a different personality than other people do. So you can present that information in a different way. And if you are focused on helping people solve the problem that they want to solve and you understand that problem, that's how you stand out. You don't need, again, to do all this like fancy, crazy stuff in order to stand out. Those are just some of the questions I've come across on social media this week. Excuse me, had to get a drink of water there for a second. And some of the things that I see that people are spending a lot of time on instead of going out and get clients. A better question to ask yourself is this: what is the problem that I want to help my ideal person solve? And where do I go find these people? How do I make these connections with people? And keep in mind that online you are in a sea of other coaches. But in your community, most people probably don't have access to a lot of coaches. I think for us as coaches, especially on social media, we get so caught up on connecting and being in groups with other coaches that it feels like everybody is a coach. But if you want to talk to your non-coaching friends and ask them how many coaches they know, you might be surprised about how few people actually know coaches. So don't get caught up on this idea that you need to go do everything on social media. Some of you might be a little relieved to hear that, right? Because some of you I know don't even like being on social media. Go connect with people in your neighborhood. Go find ways to be active in your community and go make a difference there first before you start worrying about all this other stuff. So that is it for today's episode. Hopefully you guys got a ton of value out of that. If you did, please shoot me a DM over on Instagram or on Facebook at Unshakable Habits. And just let me know what you really got the most value out of today. If you have any questions, my DMs are always open. No obligation. Just shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer your questions and help you out there. And just so you guys know, there will be no episode next week. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, just a 1 week off for Christmas. I'm going to have some family in town, so I'm going to enjoy their company. And we'll be back the first week in January with a new episode of Coach Smarter. And I look forward to seeing you all then. And so until that time, this is Stephen Box reminding you that today is a great day to break free from the chaos and start living life on your terms.